This universe is not just a stage. Every moment, every encounter, every emotion follows a law. We live within that flow, and now we begin to uncover its truth together. Welcome to the Law of the Universe, where your consciousness begins to awaken. Reflections on the duties of intellectuals and the role of parents. When we speak of debt, we often distinguish between personal debts and the greater debt owed to society. A personal debt may be small, but the debt that exists for the benefit of society carries much deeper responsibilities. Especially for those with knowledge and education, life must not be lived merely for oneself or one's family, but for society and humanity as a whole. Becoming an intellectual is not simply about acquiring knowledge. It means being aware of the support and benefits received from society, and living in a way that repays that support through equivalent responsibility. The opportunity to receive education was not made possible solely through individual tuition payments. It was thanks to national taxes, social systems, and the sacrifices and consideration of countless others. Therefore, anyone who has grown into an intellectual has incurred a debt to society. This is not just a material debt. It is a moral and spiritual obligation that must be repaid through meaningful contributions to society and humankind. For this reason, an intellectual must not live solely for their own children. If one does so, they will inevitably face suffering and confusion due to a disruption in social and natural balance. This is because an intellectual is someone who has grown through the blood and sweat of the people, and thus must give back to society in return. Particularly, if someone in a public role becomes overly attached to their child, it can lead to great misfortune for that child. This is a law of nature. It is not driven by human emotion, but by the principles of universal balance. When a child makes extreme choices or strays from the right path, the ultimate responsibility lies with the parents. This is because the parents, by focusing only on their children, have neglected their social duties. True love for one's child does not mean indulging or blindly protecting them. It means helping them develop discernment and guiding them firmly yet warmly toward the right direction in society. Sometimes, a parent must be strict and even harsh when necessary, swallowing their tears to lead their child to the right path. This is the debt that parents owe their children, and it is also the responsibility that heaven entrusts to every parent. This principle applies not only to individual parenting, but also to societal issues such as school violence, bullying, and youth delinquency. These problems often arise because parents have centered their lives solely on their children while neglecting their roles as members of society. When parents fulfill their responsibilities and live for the greater good, their energy naturally becomes a protective shield for their children, helping them thrive in school and relationships. These laws operate according to the principles of nature. The responsibility I must bear will always return to me, and what I neglect will bring consequences through society and the universe. Humans must carry 40% of their own responsibility. The remaining 30% is supported by society, and another 30% by nature. If I fail to carry my share and only rely on divine forces or heaven, I am violating the principles of the universe, and the cost will eventually return to me in the form of suffering. Therefore, the more educated and intellectually developed a person is, the more they have grown with the help of social resources, the more they must live for society and humanity. Public figures and celebrities who have risen with the support and energy of the people must now contribute back in meaningful ways to truly earn respect. Simply enjoying popularity and status is not enough. Without true contribution, they will gradually grow distant from the public, and their lives and health may begin to deteriorate. Ultimately, if I have grown by receiving energy from humanity, then I must contribute something meaningful to humanity in return. Only then can my karma be resolved. This is the fundamental operating principle of nature, and it is the righteous path a human being must walk. The responsibility of intellectuals and the true role of parents. Summary. The education we received wasn't achieved by our efforts alone. It was made possible by taxes, public systems, and the sacrifices of many. As intellectuals, we carry a moral and spiritual debt to society. This debt cannot be repaid by living only for our own children. True parenting means helping our children develop discernment, guiding them with firm but warm direction, even when it's hard. If we fail to fulfill our share of responsibility, the universe will return it to us through suffering. The deeper our knowledge, the more we must live not just for ourselves, but for society and humanity. That is the righteous path we are meant to walk. An easy-to-understand summary. The responsibility of intellectuals and the role of parents. 1. Intellectuals are indebted to society. The reason we could receive an education and grow intellectually is not just because of our own effort or tuition fees. It was made possible by national taxes, public systems, and the support and sacrifice of countless people. Therefore, intellectuals carry a moral and spiritual debt to society, which they must repay through meaningful contributions. 2. You shouldn't live only for your family. If an intellectual lives only for their own children, it can ultimately bring misfortune upon them. This is because an intellectual is someone who has grown through the hard work and support of the public, and they are obligated to give back to society. 3. True love for your child means teaching discernment. Loving your child doesn't mean spoiling or protecting them unconditionally. It means teaching them right from wrong, guiding them with both warmth and firmness, and sometimes even disciplining them. This is the real responsibility of a parent and the duty heaven entrusts to them. 4. Social problems are often rooted in parental neglect of duty. Issues like school bullying or juvenile delinquency often result from parents focusing only on their children while neglecting their role in society. When parents live responsibly and serve society, that energy naturally protects and nurtures their children, helping them grow well in school and relationships. 5. The universe operates on balance. Humans must bear 40% of their responsibilities themselves. Society helps with 30%, and nature supports the remaining 30%. But if you neglect your share and rely only on heaven or prayer, the consequences will return to you in the form of suffering. 6. The more knowledge you have, the greater your responsibility. Public figures and celebrities who grew with the public's support must give back in real ways to be truly respected. Simply enjoying fame or status is not enough. If they don't contribute meaningfully, they will grow distant from people, and illness or hardship may follow. 7. What you receive must be returned. If you have grown by receiving energy from humanity, you must do something meaningful for humanity in return. Only then can your karma, negative energy from past actions, be resolved. This is the principle of nature, and the right path for any human being. Key takeaway. The more knowledge you have, the more you must live beyond yourself, for society and humanity. True parenting means guiding children to grow as upright members of society. This is the story based on the above articles. The evening light of Seonghyun as autumn deepened. In a quiet alley near a university district, stood a small, time-worn bookstore called Somyeongdang. Inside, an elderly man named Yoo Seong-hyun could often be found sitting silently, surrounded by books and thoughts. A retired high school ethics teacher, Seong-hyun had opened the store not to make money, but to share reflections and engage with young minds. One afternoon, a university student named Ji-hoo stepped inside. A third-year philosophy major, Ji-hoo had been struggling, caught between conflicts with his parents, uncertainty about his future, and disillusionment with the world. Seong-hyun had quietly welcomed him on several occasions, and over time, a quiet mentorship began to form between them. "Teacher," Ji-hoo began hesitantly, "I just don't know why I should try so hard anymore. My parents only worry about me. My professors are out of touch. Honestly, I feel like I'm all alone." Seong-hyun paused, placing a bookmark into the open pages of the text before him. After a moment of silence, he spoke gently. "Ji-hoo, the pain you're feeling now, it might be the weight of discovering your responsibility." "Responsibility?" Ji-hoo frowned. "But I'm not even a full-grown adult yet." "That's exactly why now is the time to start preparing. A person must carry 40% of their own burden. The other 60% is supported, 30% by society and 30% by nature. But when people avoid their share and blame the world instead, they eventually break down." Ji-hoo lowered his gaze. There was truth in those words, though it wasn't easy to hear. Seong-hyun turned to the wide bookstore window, where the golden glow of sunset streamed in like a warm memory. "When I was your age, I attended university as a national scholarship student," he said. "But I didn't realize then that my education wasn't just my achievement. It was made possible by taxpayers, public systems, and the sacrifices of countless people. Once I understood that, I realized my life doesn't belong only to me." Ji-hoo listened carefully, his brows slightly furrowed. Something deeper was coming. "But you know, when I became a father, I forgot all of that. I focused only on my son, his success, his happiness. I lost sight of the greater picture, and in doing so, I smothered him. He lost his way in my shadow. He rebelled, drifted, and eventually cut me off. No matter how much knowledge you have, when you cling to your child in the name of love, it can become the heaviest burden. So then, Jihu asked softly, should parents not love their children? No, Jihu, Songhyun said with a smile. True love isn't blind protection. It's teaching discernment. It's showing them how to walk on their own. Sometimes that means being strict. Sometimes it means letting go. And always, it means living your own life with integrity, so your child sees what real responsibility looks like. Jihu nodded slowly. The knot in his heart was starting to loosen. That night, Jihu returned home and quietly joined his parents for dinner. The usual tension hung in the air, but he broke the silence. Mom, Dad, I'm going to start volunteering at the community library, reading to kids. His parents looked surprised. Then, after a pause, they both smiled, gently, and for the first time in a while, sincerely. A few days later, Jihu returned to Somyeongdang. Seonghyun was sitting in his usual place. Teacher, Jihu said, standing tall, I want to be someone who gives back. Someone who helps others. Seonghyun looked up and met his eyes. The bookstore was bathed in golden light. Jihu, that decision already makes you an intellectual. You're ready to live not just for yourself, but for the world. That evening, Seonghyun picked up his old journal and wrote a single reflection. Knowledge is not a ladder to climb alone. It must become a bridge for others to cross. And parents must be the pillars that hold that bridge. Later, Jihu received those words as a gift. He carried them not just in his notebook, but in the way he lived from that day on. What are your thoughts? What do you think is the true role of a parent or an intellectual? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's reflect together.